Hello and welcome to the Siren YouTube channel and the long-awaited part 3 of the desk build. I think it's actually been 9 months since I put the last part up, so people have possibly even had babies in the amount of time that it's taken me to do this one video. So fair play to them and shame on me. But there's been a few reasons for that. My life kind of exploded just at the time that I wanted to sort of grow this channel. I picked up a new day job which is going absolutely great, and the renovation of my house sort of reached a point where I couldn't maintain this and do the renovation, film, edit, everything, so I had to just put it aside and come back to it. So this is where we are. In the previous part we actually completed the glue up of the desktop, so let's move on now to part 3, and hopefully there's not too much sanding for you to watch. I know we all love to watch a bit of sanding. So first job is to fill in the holes that the pocket screws have left. So just a nice bit of wood glue and some dowel. You can buy pre-done plugs, but it's no different to just having a rod of dowel and cutting it. Just cut it roughly for now, and then we'll neaten it up later once it's dry. Okay, so it's been another night drying, and all the dowels are in there solid. So what I now need to do is trim them all down with the flush cut saw just above the surface of the wood, so we've got some material to sand down flat. Okay, so let's do that now. And here we go, just trimming up the dowels as close to the wood as possible. Next, to measure out the final size of the desktop. And as always, remember to wear your eyes. So we're just using a straight edge and a circular saw just to cut to the finished size. A framing square is handy for checking that the straight edge is square to the side of the desktop. And I'm keeping this sawdust here, and you'll see why in a bit. So just using the classic paint can trick to mark out the curved corners of the desktop. And I ran into a bit of an issue here where the jigsaw blade wasn't long enough to cut through the whole of the top, and so I had to use the flush cut saw just to take off the last piece that it left, which wasn't too neat, but we'll finish up later with a sander. So you can see the wood is quite uneven, so I'm going to use a belt sander to start with because it's nice and aggressive, and we'll take plenty of material down as fast as possible. You can also flatten out the dowels. Try to go with the grain where possible. Sometimes you do need to go sideways just to take out an imperfection. Then we move on to the fine sanding with the orbital sander. It's a very painstaking process. Use lots of sanding discs. And now just rounding off those corners. And I just keep making passes until the curve becomes natural. It's also a good opportunity to sand the end grain. And there we have it. There's the desktop sanded. No easy task. And here's why I kept the sawdust earlier. This is so we can fill in any cracks or holes in the desktop. So just pile in as much wood glue as you can. And then pack in as much sawdust as possible. Now what this will do is it will dry rock solid and gives a sort of MDF effect, but it will fill any cracks. And because I've used the sawdust from this actual wood, it should look fairly natural. Just level off by hand, take off the excess, and then finish with a sander. Once this dries, it will become very natural looking. And a final sand over the cracks to blend them in. Now just rounding off the edges with a router and a round over bit, just to give it a nice curved edge feel. Just adds just a touch of class. And we then flip over and repeat on the other side. You can see already what difference it makes, just a slight touch. And then where the router bit, where I couldn't actually get it neat first time, I'm just finishing off the round over by hand with a piece of sandpaper. On a piece this big, it's hard to get a consistent cut with the router every time. And another sand over, surprise, surprise. All this sanding is a pain once you're doing it, but it's worth it in the end for the final result. Next we take some white spirit just to take off all the sanding dust, or as much as possible. This will also give us a glimpse of how the top will look once we apply some oil. And here's my large oversized mixing stick. So I'm just mixing up a thin coat of Danish oil here, just to go on the bottom of the desktop. This side won't actually be seen, but this just helps to protect it from moisture ingress. You can already see the grains starting to pop here. Just making sure I put some extra on all the knots. Now you don't necessarily have to thin down Danish oil, but I just wanted to get this first coat on nice and quick, and make sure it sits nice and deep into the grain. And there we have it, looking great. So in the next part, we'll get the top flipped over and installed to the desk legs, and we'll begin the finishing of the top. Thanks for tuning in, and join us again next time.